So lots of stuff today. Lots and lots of stuff to get into. Too long, amen. Yeah. I've missed you guys, and I missed this. I missed this whole setup. It's so important to me. It's so unique, you know. Critique Hour is so unique. It feels like we really are doing what we were put on this earth to do, what we should have been doing, and the world doesn't make sense when I'm not here teaching you guys, and I'm just so happy to be back, and I'm so tired of not being here. So though I really needed the mental break of doing one critique hour a week, because my friends and family were telling me to just slow down a little bit. I was overworking. Now everything is done and projects are done. I can go back to just 2 a week. And it's like, it's therapy for me, really. It's medicine. It's good medicine to have Critique Hour, to be here doing this with you. I love doing this with you guys. And I love the conversation. At one point I asked myself, you know, haven't I put out enough videos? Like, what if I should stop Critique Hour one day? And you can't do that. It's just not possible. I don't think I could ever do that. So I'm so happy to just have this together, this 5 p.m. Eastern time slot that we just get to have to ourselves, no matter what happens in the week, no matter where we go. We come here together because at one point or another we decided we wanted to draw, because we had images and stories in our mind that no picture could capture, that no camera could capture, and we wanted to come here and learn how to draw together and learn how to, you know, I'm sorry, my window's open. And just and learn this terrible difficult task together. It's so unique. It's such a unique phenomenon, Critique Hour, and I'm so proud to be the voice of it. And I am called here to do this. This is my role that I have to play, and I'm proud to play it. Happy to be back, and it's a good back. You know, I'm back for good. Not partially back like I was in the spring or the early summer, but I really feel steady. I'm on 2 steady legs now, and health issues are all passing. They're just gone. And definitely after a couple months, the surgery is starting to show how successful it was. It doesn't show right away because you're still healing, but I feel strong inside and out. I'm just happy to be back. Thank you everyone for coming today. I really appreciate everyone for coming. I appreciate you guys so much. So today I'm going to be taking a look at a piece that I asked my follower to give me on Instagram. It's a great piece to talk about this really cool Critique Hour style that I want to do. That is basically doing different versions of the same painting and talking about the benefits of lighting and the different storytelling qualities of that lighting scenario. But before I do that, I have a couple of announcements. I'm using Portrait Studio today, software Abu and I developed together, and it is currently on sale on my website. So go to istebrak.com and go to the store icon. It is on sale, as well as my brushes. And if you want to submit your stuff to Critique Hour, you want to be a part of the community challenges, etc., go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here. And as you may have noticed, I delayed once again the environment design challenge. I just wanted it to be on a day where I was not very busy, and that I could just take my time compiling all the pieces. Today I had back-to-back classes. Thursday's a little bit better, and I'll compile them Wednesday night. But you guys, I've already handed them all in, hopefully, because today was supposed to be the deadline. So it'll be a lot easier for me to compile them, and I won't have to rush. As well as I just wanted to have one basic Critique Hour day before, or you know, usual Critique Hour day before we do another Critique Hour challenge day. That way we could ease back into it instead of my first day back being all about challenges. I wanted to get back into the groove first. So those are the 2 announcements. I read through the creative writing assignments, and I've already picked a winner. I have not assigned them yet. But those were some amazing stories. You guys are amazing writers. Thank you everyone for participating in that. But yeah, I'm using Portrait Studio today, and it's on sale on my store. Oh, and for private tutoring, I did update my website, and I've been showcasing a lot of my students' work. So if you guys want to take a look at the illustrations that my students have been doing, they're all available here with little blurbs. written by the student, just so you guys could have a look at you know, what they, you know, their experience in my classes and what it's like being in private tutoring with me. So if you guys want to have a look at their artwork, it's absolutely amazing. I'm really proud to have it on my website. Thank you guys for letting me put it up. So let's get started. So I opened up Portrait Studio and I set up one lighting scenario that I will be adjusting as we go. So what I'm going to do is copy paste this piece 4 times and do 4 or maybe 3, now however many different lighting scenarios, and talk about the benefit of each one. Okay, and then another one here. Huh, I divided them perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to keep them separate by layers. And any questions at all before I get started? Let me read through live chat. It looks like we need higher margin on the top of that canvas to give those horn spikes some room. I agree. I definitely agree, Lighthouse. Heart squeeze intensify. Oh, Cesium. Yay, I made it to a stream for the first time in a year. Welcome. Happy to be back. Welcome to the Cool Kids Club, y'all. Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so first one is a silhouette, obviously, because I love silhouettes. And the lighting, the narrative benefit. So basically, this is what I'll be talking about: lighting and their narrative effect and benefit. Silhouette. I've talked about this a lot, and a lot of my students ask about this. And these are things. One of my students is an illustrator who runs his own website, and he was talking about how. And another student of mine has the same kind of, not a website, but the same kind of issue. They asked, I don't know what the lighting scenarios are. I don't know what they are in their variety. Let me just get this lasso so I can copy paste it everywhere. Sorry about my scratching. But yeah, the review for the XP Pen Artist 22 2nd Gen is up if you guys want to go take a look at that. When you get a chance after watching today's video, you want to go over there and have a quick look at it. If you've been looking for a tablet, a display tablet, I finally have one to recommend to everyone. I love it. I actually love using it. So you'll see me using it in the video. Okay, so let me preserve this lasso. Deselect. Let me just fix that lasso real quick. Alrighty then. So, silhouette. How do we do it? So the benefit of a silhouette in narrative is mystery. Obviously, because the character is hidden. So if there is a mystery in the narrative of your writing, if you're writing a character that we don't know yet, a character that we're not supposed to know or be intimately acquainted with in any way, because a close-up that's fully lit is you being intimately close to that character. So think about a movie, think about a close-up in some kind of romantic comedy or whatever. You get to get really close and personal with the actor, and what that does is it just creates this immersive feeling with being the viewer. So you're there, you're kind of part of this conversation that included the close-up. It could be a romantic scene, it could be a scary movie that has a close-up that has a very kind of like it drags you into the horror scene, so that the viewer could, the actor could be terrified, but it's a close-up that makes you terrified, so it's more intimate. So think of the silhouette as like the polar opposite of a close-up that is very personal. So when we do that, we're doing the opposite of a close-up. We're zoomed out. As you've never really seen a good close-up that is a silhouette. You know, you can do that sometimes, but at this point, what are you close-up looking at if the face is silhouetted? So I'm just gonna do some quick tricks. You know my tricks. So darken layer, color layer, all that business. So darken. And the darken is the most important part. And darkening with a color so that you can unify the light environment. So it's not just darken with black, it's darken with a color. And that alone will make things read. So that's what I set up in Portrait Studio really quickly. And let me fix the camera angle so that it looks a little bit more domineering, and zoom in a little bit. So it feels a little bit more like she's towering over us, like she's this goddess of some kind. And I think this artist here was trying to write the story of like a very elegant alien goddess or queen of some kind. All right. The color layer also does a little bit of color correction. All right. I did 2 light sources in Portrait Studio. I did the universal light source here. So Portrait Studio has live light, so you don't have to like let it render or anything like that. It just renders instantly. Obviously you have control of the camera and the model. But what I did was I brought 2 point lights from the side. This is what I'm going to be bringing in a second, so that we don't lose her shape completely. We actually use the light source around to reveal her bone structure, which is her most prominent feature. So we're not losing her. And if you are the cameraman in a movie, this is what you're doing. You're finding the most prominent feature of the actor to bring out. Really, the director is behind all of that, but that's what you're doing. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm just gonna bring in a pure white. What's going on? Select inverse. Select inverse. Oh, select inverse. Okay. New layer. And just bringing in that pure white that I developed to help reveal. And that's what you'll find issues with when you do silhouettes, is that you want to relieve that silhouette a little bit, just a touch, just so you could have some of the character come. But this is not a bloom. This is revealing the bone structure of the character. I'm also going to mess with Dodge really quickly, since it's a character. Obviously it has organic material of some kind, which means that the light is going through her ears. So I'm going to raise that opacity up just so I could have some of that rim light, and clean up as I go. So one thing you could do with rim light is just outline the exact area you want done with the blocking brush, and then erase with soft brush if needed, or use smudge brush if needed, or use blur layer. So those are different ways to feather out this rim light. The ears cast somewhat of a shadow coming through. And then we'll cover another light source style for this one, which is the environment being dark and light only coming from above, and what the effect of that is. And then we'll choose one where we have a very lit, direct light on the face, and they all have different narrative stories, like the different narrative effects. All right, so I'm just going to feather this out. Everything is unmuted. Everything is good. Okay. And you guys get the before here, so it's not really about before and after today. It's about the fact that the before really, one big thing is that the before really didn't have a good story. Everything was visible. Everything was lit. Background wasn't really luminescent. Nothing was really happening. And that's kind of why it was boring, because nothing dramatic was happening and there was no storytelling happening in any way. All right, and I'm just letting that extend here. Possibly it stops at the shoulders. Maybe the light just hangs out over the collarbones because it's kind of below her shoulder line. So her shoulder line is where the light stops. Okay, and then there's the crown. So she definitely does not look like an NPC. She does not look like a serf or some kind of basic character, you know, fill in. You know, it's not a non-protagonist or non-essential character or critical role. She definitely looks like she's either the villain or related to the protagonist in some big way, or the protagonist herself. All right. And because the light is established as coming from beneath, I'm just gonna let some of that light hang out on her ears as well as on the lower parts of the crown. And then moving up into the temple. Just slightly, just so we could create that separation. Temple needs to be edged out as well. And we're really revealing her alien bone structure. And you could really push this silhouette even further. So that's why I separated these layers. Select inverse. You could really push it. Select inverse again. Oops, wrong one. Oh, what did I do? Yeah, all right, so we're pushing this lower and darker. I'm gonna keep the saturation up. Do you see that? So it really is a very, very pronounced light source style. And it has a very specific narrative role. Let me clean up a little bit more and add a little bit more light. All right, and then we can double up here, or we can select inverse and brighten that background value a touch. So we could brighten it all the way. And sometimes you just have to go pure white. This is a really strong light source. It's kind of like the poster child of silhouettes. This is where you really can make a massive narrative shift. If you darken it, she looks like she's in this really dimly lit, where are you, color? Dimly lit kind of dungeony type place. And if I make it a little bit more purple, the silhouette is still strong, but we can, oopsie, we can have the same narrative effect without having a super bright background is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm lost a little bit right now with this stupid. Okay. Right? And then we could make it so that it's a bit more divine or a bit more maleficent. Is that the right word? Malevolent. Malevolent, yes. And Maleficent is actually a really good mistake to make because she actually does remind me a lot of Maleficent. So I'm just taking a look at the navigator. Is that right? Am I saying it right? It's not Maleficent. Yes, it's Maleficent. Right? Okay. And then I'm just going to color correct the chest area, maybe with sponge tool. Oopsie, select inverse. Just to show what's happening here. So you don't have to lose a lot of that vibrancy in a silhouette. You can have it all come back. Just as long as you have this strong silhouette. And if there is an environment behind her, if there is some kind of window, if the window is bright, so she's got like this bright setup, it does not have to be pure white, is what I mean. I'm gonna do a little bit more rendering. She looks breathtaking. This Keanu Reeves with lighting, very mysterious. Shitting my pants vibes. I have a feeling I know who you are. Are you Mehmed? Or is it Mehmed? I know that type of talk. I know my Instagram fans are the best. Yeah. Oh yeah, I am. I forgot to mention, I am hosting daily sketch challenges on Instagram. So if you guys are looking for some daily inspiration, I send out little pieces I find while browsing Instagram, little images, and I share them on my Instagram stories. And I, you know, I start painting some myself, like doing my own sketch. And I'd love for you guys to be involved. I share every piece that's sent to me. So if you are looking for exposure, I do that on my Instagram as well. All right, so I'm starting to highlight certain areas with that bounce light. It's not so much that I've escaped the silhouette, it's just enough. And then I'm bringing in some kind of narrative element to the eyes, just to help out, because we don't want to lose that divinity that we see in her, or that malevolence. All right. And then one thing I feel like we're missing is a little bit of a tonal change in the mouth. I feel like it could be blue, you know, it could be something else. So let me see if I can pull it out of that value. Just kind of let the mouth stand out a little bit. Okay, so really, really strong light source situation, really powerful sense of character. That's definitely intimidating. Definitely divine, maybe like an intro scene of the protagonist finally coming into this throne room, and that's where the character is sitting, or that's where the character is introduced, or in the show or movie. The narrative power of a silhouette is definitely mystery and, you know, a lot of strength. You could make it a dark scene. Remember, you have the option of it being a dark scene. It does not have to be a purely light scene. So you could just really take a look at how the silhouette still works in a dark scene. All right. I know it's really chopped up and the lasso wasn't great, but the silhouette mostly really only qualifies it if it's actually dark in the scene. You know, the actual object is blacker or darker than the let me see if yeah, like that, like if it's actually a little bit darker than the background. But you could, it is technically a silhouette if the background isn't completely allowing most of the object. If the light is behind the object and the background isn't getting some of it, it's still a silhouette. We're seeing kind of like the thumbnail cutout of the object, right? And I added a little bit of bloom, and I basically am just duplicating this right here. So background value is a bit brighter in this case, so let me make it very bright. And it's just an exaggerated version of this. So I've got bloom on. I've got intense bloom on. Hella bloom. So you don't have to have all this bloom in Portrait Studio. You could lower it. You can even lower the range, the strength. But I like a lot of bloom just because it feels more natural. It makes the light feel more active. So we've got one lighting scenario. Now we've got another one where we have the object. Let me see if I could transfer my lasso over to my little señorita here. Okay. So I forget, which one was I doing for this one? Was I doing a dark background or a top light? Yes, dark background with top light value. So I'm darkening the background. All right, and this one, though this one has room for interpretation and the character isn't necessarily completely illuminated, but it has a lot of mystery, it doesn't mean that the character is completely evil. This lighting scenario I'm about to show you, 100% no room for interpretation. This character is completely evil if we do this one, because it's such a strong, it's got such a strong narrative direction to it. There's really, leaves very little room for interpretation. So I'm going to duplicate this, yep, and darken the whole thing. So deselect, no, yeah. Deselect, duplicate the whole thing, and just darken the whole thing. And I'm going to delete at the same indications I have for the universal light source. If I turn off bloom and these two, and just let the background be darker, so really darken that background. The ambient light is on, and then just let those shadows extend this way. Honestly, at no point have we ever seen light like this and thought, what a sweet, gentle soul. What a lovely person this is. That they must be so approachable. They must not be an evil introvert, antisocial introvert in a tall, dark tower. So I've never done that. They're 100% evil and scary. So I'm going to start with the nose, deleting it that, and I'm actually going to help this scene out by maybe lightening the lower a little bit more. I'll do it in a second if I need it. So actually we'll open Portrait Studio just so I could, or take a screenshot, maybe allow some. And you can always do it at an angle. It doesn't have to be, you know, perfect, but as you can see the indication of a skull. So that's why I've never looked at a character in a movie like this and had good feelings. You know, good. It's always a bad omen when some kind of character is plotting and they've got light coming from up. And I could be wrong. Maybe, you know, directors have found ways around it, but I've definitely never seen one. So I'm trying to create that same effect, or maybe I should do it with lasso tool. So anywhere where I'm deleting, I'm lassoing. So, all right. Just thinking, oh shit, I'm getting lost in the lasso here. I'm thinking about basically the shadow of the eye socket, but also trying to respect her alien bone structure. If you were trying to show a character that is 100% evil, you know, just go for this. You can't go wrong. Let's see. And I'm trying to get the shape of the eyes here. And then maybe exaggerate them some more later as I'm deleting. There's nothing's final right now. I'm just trying to get the basic bone structure out, the nose out. And the nose is upturned quite a bit. I'm not sure if it's because the artist doesn't know how to paint a nose or because the alien's nose is upturned a little bit in this species. But make sure that it's intentional and not accidental. We wouldn't really be seeing that. Plus, either way, no matter what you choose, the nostrils aren't really looking very good since they're under-rendered a little bit. And then deleting the indication of the and then a little bit of the chin right here. Right, and then I'll kind of deal with the neckline a little bit as I go. So this is going to be tricky because I'm doing everything backwards, but basically deleting one long strand. I actually want to show off the cheekbones a little bit more, make them really skeletal, because you know how in a skeleton, like, you're really showing, and she does have that kind of bone structure. Just long cast shadows. All right, and then I might bring in some rim light coming from the sides. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur that edge. Oh, nah, I'll do it the other way because I did it backwards, so I can't really do that. And then I'll just I should not have done it backwards, but that's okay. And then I'll bring in a little bit of rim light coming from behind. Okay, and then there is the crown. Gets a lot of that light from above. It's okay if the background's not clean, I can clean it up. So this is the back of the crown, so it gets almost all the light. Should not be using soft brush so much for this, but I just wanted to get through it really quickly. Since I'll be fixing the outline anyway. Oops, much. And I really just want to show how extended that is. The light just coming from above, and then I'll do a secondary layer where it won't be backwards, it'll be the highlight sitting on top. And in cases like this, we do want to tilt the camera down. We want the viewer to feel like they're just being watched, you know, or something is higher than they are. Okay, so that's nice and clean now. And then in a new layer, I'm just gonna start extending some of those shadows upward. I currently don't have a mod, so I don't know if there's someone talking about, I don't know, something bad. So please mod yourselves for today. So I'm allowing that shadow to really extend down. And it is really a very encompassing shadow. It's like an all-encompassing shadow. It just sits on everything and extends downward. And then I'll delete. And most of the light, most of this setup comes from the where the light is placed to create that skull-like effect. So I'm being very careful where I'm placing it to create the outline of the eye socket. Again, I've never seen this in movies where we don't have an evil character being introduced. You can see it's just a really strong light source. So there's a lot. I know this is a little bit more fantasy leaning, like if it's in a very simple, you know, friendly looking illustration, you're not really trying to employ high drama. But it's about high drama for today because the theme is based off the illustration the student handed in, which is extremely high fantasy. You know, a really royal looking alien creature from another planet. And the reason why I bring in the relief, the rim light here is just because we would bring it in. We wouldn't really let these areas just hang out in too much shadow. Plus some of that light is sent in to pretend like it's an extension of that top down light. And if it is the same character, we have to imitate the decisions we made on the other character here. So I'm going to throw in that blue, oops, of the mouth and the glowy eyes. So now she definitely looks a little more evil. She does not look like a character that we would say is a healer. And I'm gonna color correct some more here. Trying to make it so that it's the same character in a different lighting scenario. And if you really want to, you may extend that cast shadow, just like I did in Portrait Studio, all the way down. So that's really just the nose that's coming through. And that definitely makes the character feel a lot more scary. So bear with me. A lot more dangerous as well. And then just like in the other one, I want to play with the levels of it as well. And you can see how this one is really just dependent on the light of the, you know, the actual light source. It's not so much dependent on the background. This one is quite dependent on the background in the sense that we need the bloom there. So the background is a part of the character, but this light is kind of moving down now. And just drowning the scene. Again, I've never seen a character in film that is drowned in shadow like this that is not dangerous in some way. So I'm allowing that ear over here to get a bit more colored, and then just blending that out, because dodge tool saturates and illuminates, and then maybe sneaking in some more rim light. So this is pure silhouette. This is, I would not say is a silhouette. This is top-down lighting. So there is no silhouette. We can see the universal revealing some of the character. It's only silhouette if the light is behind the character. All right, so that's one way to start remembering the role of silhouettes in narratives, is that if it's behind the character, it's either elevating the character's divinity or dressing the character in a lot of shadow that makes them inaccessible to the viewer, creating that sense of mystery or that sense of separation. We don't know them, we don't understand them, we can't figure them out. They're in the alley, they're you know, we can't tell who they are. So they can be mysterious or dangerous, mysterious in a good way or dangerous in a good way. Intro character, kind of like the silhouette of Goku when he's introduced into a final battle type of thing. So it's not evil and it's not good. It's something that can be used for either. This kind of shadow here, this one, these long cast shadows coming off the eye socket leave very little room for interpretation. It's a dimly lit room. It's imitating the image of a skull. We've talked about the skull before in designing villains. Villains and skulls are basically the same thing. They used a lot of that villain indication in the skull indication in a villain's design. The dark lower circles, no eyebrows. You know, a lot of that same stuff is used on villain designs from across media, from Disney to Marvel. You know, you've seen a lot of stuff, or now it's the same thing, Jesus Christ. But you know what I mean. All right, and I'm just exaggerating that long shadow here. And in this one, we're gonna work pretty closely with what the viewer decided on, or the student decided on, which is that light shining in from the front. That will make her look like a healer. That's when she'll look like one, and start to be a little bit more accessible to the viewer. Okay, so these are really, really dramatic lighting here. So remember, they have specific roles. And if you were, you know, one of the questions in the post on Reddit by this artist is that they just didn't know where to take the painting. What's next? What do I do with it? What am I missing? And these are the, you know, the kinds of things you're missing. Is that it had no real narrative behind it. Mostly because, you know, we didn't know what was happening with the background, because it's such a mid-tony looking background. When you have too much mid-tone, mid-tones are great for learning how to study, or studying, period. But they're not great for trying to make a dramatic scene or telling a story. Mid-tones are just too safe. But yeah, overall, really cool character. Okay, next up is this one. No, give me a second, I'm not done. I'm just looking at my navigator, trying to create that light. It's kind of catching the ears. Again, you don't look at this person and say, wow, I really want to date them. Actually, no, I would say that because I love villains. I'm a freak like that. But you know, you wouldn't say, hey, I think they'd be a great nurse. You don't want to wake up and see this. You don't wake up from surgery and see a nurse with lighting like that. Yeah, you'd wake up screaming if your nurse looked like this when you woke up. But when you wake up and your nurse looks like this, that's a little bit more lit, then you really would be like, oh yeah, great gal. Let me get this lasso of mine, my little helper. Yeah, I like this nurse. I don't mind being nursed by her. I could do this. All right, so for this one, you could have a white background. You could have a medium background. You really can do whatever you want. The light can have a cast shadow on the back. It's kind of like it's another dramatic lighting that has a very different, specifically set narrative role, which is there's no cast shadows. It looks like basically a magazine lighting. Give me a moment. So what we're doing is we're going to be trying to ignore the background and just focus on the character being completely lit. So the background, in order to be ignored, can be, oopsie, can be raised up this way to have a little bit more brightness on them. But this time we don't do a silhouette. It's not brightening for a silhouette. It's just brightening for the, let me see my navigator 1 second. It's just pretty mid-tony compared to the silhouette that's pure white. You can see what I mean? So this is pure white. This is where it is. This is where it was at. Right here is where it was at. So we're just doing something in between. And what's happening to the character is that they are in this strongly, it's not from the back. It's a strongly diffused light situation. And then we're just going to color correct really quickly, because the biggest critique I have for this piece outside of today's lesson, is that it's not color corrected. So I'm just going to match all the colors together, basically grabbing each color and throwing it on top so everything gets back to an even medium everywhere. All right, so the character is glowing and there's not much cast shadow. And it'll almost seem like the character's glowing from the inside out. I'm not even sure if, what happened here. Yeah, I'm gonna brighten it a little bit. But a very friendly universal light source that allows the character to exist just normally, as if they are a character you're just having a conversation with. It's not the moment Galadriel was revealed, but it's while she's having the conversation with the Fellowship. So there is a bit of a room lighting, kind of like an open scene. And that's just shadows that extend this way. So if we go back to Portrait Studio, it's no longer this, it's just something like this. It's nondescript that allows the character to come through, but they still look like a healer just because we raised that value. So basically we're making her look like a good guy. Yep, I'm selecting verse. Oh, nope, sorry, my bad. Grabbing like a purple mid-tone shadow gray and just allowing most of the shadows to sit on the edge. Really light shadows because the background is a mid-tone, so it's not really going to allow for anything crazy. And the reason why the painting and the original painting didn't look strong is just because you didn't have any particular thing happening with the light source at any point. The nose wasn't really doing much. There wasn't much of a cast shadow happening anywhere. It was neither diffused nor was it kind of visible light. You didn't have a very strong contrast on any of the features. You were missing some essential core shadows. So this is basically like a 14-day challenge with the light tilted. And this is just that usual lighting setup that we do. And that's where we could have a friendly conversation lighting, we can call it. And this, she might turn out to be evil later in the story, but the light is hiding anything. The light in either of the two we did already is not hiding anything. The light is telling the story. You can see how the light really does do that. Light can tell the entire story. The actor basically doesn't have to do any acting. Isn't that crazy? The lighting alone can tell the entire story. Write that back to me. And I'm just casting a shadow this way, and I'm just using purple just to continue the character. Okay, and then the same thing, but we're going to illuminate just everything else using the same white light source color. So there's a lot of human that's lost in this character just because the eyes are not, that's an alien. So it's hard to pick up on friendly human characteristics. So they will always look a little scary to us. But the fact that we're, you know, allowing the light to sit something similar to what we see on Earth, or something that we would see while talking to a character or any person, makes them feel a lot more accessible. All right, so I'm just gonna start merging now. And then okay, and then saturation in this scene goes up because the lighting allows it. And I'm just gonna let them sit a little bit more this way. You can see how we're having issues with the light. And then in a new layer, I'm just going to build up the light in one direction radially. And then just deleting, trying to sharpen some of those cast shadows. You really don't have strong edges, which is probably where a lot of your problems are coming from. There's no real rendering power to this. Rendering comes from sharp edges and strong indication of light presence. So if everything is fuzzy and the light is fuzzy and the edges are fuzzy and the material all looks like it's made out of the same thing, that's when you start having issues making things visible on all fronts. Because everything's kind of hidden under something else, and there's always an exception. And the crown isn't really made of any particular familiar material, and the face isn't particularly human, and you're messing around. We're breaking too many rules of anatomy for you to be breaking any rules of light and expect to get away with them. You could get in a bounce light from the sides. So that rim light, you can see how it's applicable to all fields. It's not particular, and it doesn't have any narrative strength. It's really just there to give the directors or the artists a chance to reveal the character when we do have strong lighting, or just let the camera see them. It doesn't have any narrative strength. Only if, now rim light has narrative strength as a silhouette or partial silhouette, only if like the only thing you see, let me show you, is pure black character. So actually I don't even need to do that. I could just do this pure black character and like some rim light visible. That has a lot of narrative strength to it, just that alone. But that's a different thing. That's something they use in horror because it's not, there's not enough, it's a complete blackout. And that has its own narrative power just because it's a blackout. We can't see anything. The viewer is scared. We're all scared of the dark. And so we don't see the character. Therefore, the natural response is fear. And that's why it's used in horror movies, because you're trying to figure out what you're looking at, and then when you least expect it, the monster comes out. Or you're looking into a closet and you don't really know what you're looking at, and you had no idea the whole time. You had that rim light of a face that you only notice when, someone's like, oh my God, look at the closet. There's so many movies that are like that. And that's good horror because they're using lighting to tell that scary story. But obviously here, this rim light is just used as bounce light, really. It's not really rim light anymore. It's just to refute, to kind of diffuse some of that cast shadow. And that's why I'm blending it out in some of those areas. Yeah, just checking in the chat, making sure you guys are behaving here. And a little bit of rim light used here. So one really simple but very effective, non-dramatic, but dramatic enough just because the background is bright. Light to reveal her face. And two really dramatic ones to show you what the rules are and their storytelling rules. Right, and in this one, there is one really encompassing change we have to do, which is that scene when we see Galadriel. We want to raise the entire light upward, as if we're looking at it through a film, and that's really what's going to push that divinity, that sense of we're looking at an iridescent angel. But we're also having a friendly conversation with it, just like the scene where we meet Galadriel. And because there's a lot of light, everything is being fed, and there's a lot of saturation. See, it never hurts to lean on analogous colors. It never hurts. And what I want to do really quickly is go here. So you see how we're not using bloom. You could use some bloom coming from the top half of the painting. So just like up here, there's a little bit just to show, or maybe from the side, just to show how that light, but it can really come from all directions if it's a character that's glowing. And then for this one, what I want to do is just drop that mid-tone value down quite a bit. Okay. And then select and go backward. It's a bit tricky trying to paint three paintings at the same time, but give me a minute. And allowing that glow in the eyes to come back. So again, this could be not necessarily an evil character, as you can see. It could be a good character introduced in a very dramatic way. Now this one here, this character has ominousness to them. So let me duplicate that. And what am I doing? I am going to be, yeah, so in this here. Oops. I'm just going to be trying to show off that skull shape a little bit more. And that'll really help. And I want to mess with it. So I wish I could mess with the angles a little bit more. But I can't, because I could really lower the camera in a way that makes this character, because look at how when the character is low, when we're low, you know, the viewer is low, and the light is like this, you see how dramatic that is. And it's just very ominous, it's very scary, it's very foreboding. So this here is it's in need of an angle shift. And I want to show you again the benefit of using burn tool on midtones to really take out a lot of that light, to just let the crown sit on top as a shadow, sit on top of the face. And actually, while erasing, I could erase in this very kind of tricky way. trying to show the bounce light underneath the crown. And then just bringing the eyes out. And I'll let the eyes glow in the other one as well, but I still want it to read as female for the most part. Okay, so dramatic there. And then for the glowing one, the lit one, I want to bring in that blue. And remember, I'm pulling blue from pure, bright, iridescent blue on Photoshop because that is basically a combustion color, and that will be allowed in this scenario because we have this super lit room that's allowing all the colors to sit in their purest saturation. And you don't know, you know, who knows? They could use this in a horror movie. I mean, we just saw that with that movie, which shall not be named because I don't want you guys looking it up and terrifying yourself. If you find it, you find it, all right? If you find that horrible movie director and their movies, then you find them. But you're not going to find them through me. They're terrifying. You watch them only once and you just leave. I didn't even watch it. But anyway, you can host a horror movie in a bright scene. So this could be a very dramatic scene full of all kinds of hypocrisy and hell. The first time I ever saw an evil character dressed in pure good was in Constantine. The way they portrayed the angel Gabriel. It's kind of like an asshole. And very, very beautiful, very blonde haired and very divine looking traditional image of an angel that is like kind of like androgynous. That's why they what's her name? I forget her name. Who's the actress that acts in that as that bald guy or that bald monk from Doctor Strange or Mr. Dr. Strangelove? Dr. Magic? Tilda Swinton, thank you. Dr. Magic. I should do movie review. I've been thinking about doing movie reviews. And then just, you know, where they failed, where they didn't. Just critiquing movies, really. I know, who am I to critique movies, whatever. And I want to, like, you know, I want to get into where they did it right and really just look at the movie directly and show you guys exactly where, you know, the story was written properly and where we get that feeling. So in this piece right here, what I want to show you is a fourth one, which is kind of like a friendlier silhouette, but not really. It's just a chance to mess with the silhouette in different grades. So just to show, this is the fourth one technically. So if you can take a look at the different grades of silhouette, and you'll start to notice when it starts to feel ominous. You're kind of just gonna start feeling like, okay, this character is looking a little bit too much in the shadow. So that's why I was waiting for this one to show you guys this one, just because now it's like ready. So this is full silhouette. This is all still silhouette, all the way up until we go back to 100% where it's just illumination. It's just drowning in light. So this here is acceptable. This is a really cool one. She still feels good, still feels powerful. When we get to here, she still feels kind of good, but there's definitely a sense of deeper power involved in this character. And then there's this. And then I want to show you one more thing, which is the overlap here. Let me see if it'll even overlap, which is purely lit, but with black background. So no evil light. And then I'm just gonna lower it this way. So you have a lot of options. The background, as you can see, doesn't govern what's happening mostly. Most of the time that comes from the light as it dances on the character. Okay, and then this last one, you could push this light all the way up. I've seen this in movies as well. and kind of like memories, or the moment the light bursts and you see the queen coming down from the throne or something, like walking down the stairs. That's how I see it animating in my mind. But there are rules. For instance, like this one, you can't have a scene like this with lighting coming from above. Even this here, the shadow is coming through from underneath the eyes. You can't have a scene like that like this and think you're looking at a good character. And you can't have a scene like this on the number one, which is from the left, without feeling a sense of like, I don't know enough about this character to trust them as the viewer, even up to here. The only one you can feel like you trust, but still it can have its creepy values, is this one, just because the character is fully visible, and a fully visible character, you'll see all the grotesque detail. Sometimes that is in itself very scary. So I wanted to talk about all of this stuff today. It's really fun. It's really exciting because it's got a lot going on, and it's got different roles. Each one has a different role. The character is has different narrative responsibilities based off how they're lit. So be careful. Don't accidentally give a character a silhouette without intending some kind of a mystery to them. If you want mystery in a character, you're going to need to have some kind of silhouette or shadow play on their face, because it's not easy for the viewer. You have to convince the viewer. The viewer is very smart and very pessimistic and very cynical, especially if the viewer is me. So you have to convince me that I'm supposed to be feeling that this character really is this in playing this role, playing this very important role, whatever it's going to be, using the lighting. Lighting can tell most of the story. So thank you everyone for coming today. This was a really cool discussion. If you want your work submitted to Critique Hour, so I don't always do a lesson like this. Sometimes I'm just critiquing and showing before and after. So go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here to join us on Reddit. So Reddit is where everything happens. It's where I go to pick out stuff to critique. This is one of the alien design, the alien landscape challenge submissions. Really amazing. I'm so excited to look at this one. Please do have a read of it if you haven't read it yet. I put a lot of my narrative love in there. And a lot of my effort. So if you want to read it, go ahead. The resource pack is right there. Make sure you're subscribed with the bell on. If you want to join on live streams, please do that. Leave a like and a subscribe so you guys can get notifications every time I go live, every time there's a video. The more you like my videos, the more notifications and recommendations you get. So I think that's one of the reasons why my channel isn't really, my notifications aren't going out, is because likes aren't being left behind. It's not that I want likes or anything like that. It's part of how we play with the algorithm. And that's it. Portrait Studio is on sale. Really, Portrait Studio is so powerful, as you can see today. You can mess with a lighting scenario before you make any decisions. So you could have attempted all these different lighting setups before you ever started. And get it out of the way and figure out what you want your image to look at without dedicating too much time rendering or drawing. So if you do want it, it's available on my website. It's currently half off, so now is the best time to get it. It's a summer sale. It'll be on for a while. I hope you guys enjoy using it. Thank you everyone for coming. I'll see you guys on Thursday for the Environment Challenge Critique Hour. That I will be compiling all of the references, all of the submissions Wednesday night or tonight. And I will be announcing the next community challenge for end of summer from the narratives you guys handed in, the stories, sometime on Thursday or next week. Thank you everyone for coming. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye.